Assalamualaikum and greetings to everyone. My name is Siti Nur Shaira binti Muhammad here, and welcome to my vlog assignment. So, first and foremost, I'll talk briefly about my teaching video. So, it was filmed back when I was in semester 4. It was actually for an assignment for this course called Classroom Discourse, where we need to film ourselves teaching some students for roughly about 20 minutes. So, back then, I had the opportunity to ask for my mom's help since she is a teacher at this primary school in Kota Baru, Kelantan, which is ASKI Tanjung Mas. So, I asked for her help to get some of her students to be featured in my teaching video. And I also got the opportunity to use the school's facility, and I conducted my teaching video in this computer lab. As for the lesson that was conducted in this video, I chose the topic Landmarks in Malaysia, which was found in their textbook. So the number of students that was involved in my video, there were 5 of them, two girls and 3 boys, and they were all Year 6 students from 6 Ibn Khaldun class. And their proficiency level ranges from B1 to C1, which is intermediate to advanced levels. And a brief explanation on my activity with them. Basically, my activity focuses on speaking skills, and it actually encourages students to think about famous landmarks that was found all over Malaysia, whether if they had seen it on the internet or they had personally visited it in real life. And students also are required to use their background knowledge to identify their past experiences, and they also are required to share their experiences with the whole class. And later on, during the post lesson, they are required to come up with their very own landmarks to establish locations in Kota Baru, Kelantan. So this is where the lesson will test on their creativity as well as their critical thinking skills, because after they had produced their own product, they are required to justify their product and explain to the whole class why did they chose that particular thing to be created in their landmark.
These are the students who were involved in my teaching video.
So first off, I began the lesson by asking them what do they know about the word landmark. And then I proceeded to explain to them about what is a landmark and that we will be learning about the famous landmarks found all over Malaysia. So for the set induction, I shared with the students a YouTube video link about a video, Visit Malaysia 2020, and they have to identify as many landmarks as they can from the video, and basically we just share with the whole class. I proceeded with the lesson and continued by sharing with them a poster that I made myself. And then it was actually a poster consisting of 5 different landmarks that was very common and obvious for them to get the idea where the landmarks is from. And then basically it was a laid back sharing session. I just shared them my experiences upon visiting that place, and I also asked about their experiences, whether they had visited it in real life or they had seen that place in television. I proceeded to elaborate about the history of the places and how the landmarks came to be, and then what are the activities that can be done there since it is a famous attraction in Malaysia. And after that, uh, we moved to the activity session whereby the students are required to produce their very own landmark for their state, which is Kota Baru, Kelantan. So this activity requires them to explore their creativity upon designing their own landmarks using ideas that they can find all over Google or their textbook or even their background knowledge. So I give them the freedom to use Google to gain ideas, to help them adopt and adapt existing landmarks all over the world or even all over Malaysia. So basically, after they had come out with their drawings, they are required to draw their landmark. So after they come out with that, they need to justify and explain why did they choose to draw their designs that way. So like, why do they draw two towers standing opposite ways, something like that. So they are required to justify and explain about that. So after analyzing my teaching video, I managed to identify a few weak points towards my lesson, and that my lesson, I could say that my lesson didn't go as how I planned it to be. So the obvious point was that the students could not justify the reasons for them choosing a particular landmark to be adapted in their drawing. They were clueless, and did not know how to explain why did they choose a particular color for their landmark, or why did they choose to adapt an Eiffel Tower design to their landmark. They could not explain it further, and actually I was hoping that they would, but they didn't. I also recognized that all of the students were shy except for one student, which is Iqbal. He was a little bit outgoing when explaining his own landmark, and the others were shy to present their product to the class, and they highly depend on me to help them explain themselves about why they chose that landmark. For instance, I tend to give out clarification requests to encourage them to speak, which is, for example, so Arman, did you choose to color your tower red because you love the color red? And he did not respond like enthusiastically. He just nodded most of the time, and most of the students were like that. I tend to, when I gave them clarification requests, they just either nod or they say yes to everything I say. So they did not give deep justifications, and their explanations were not critical enough. There was also a student, I think it was Bushra. She could not finish her drawing on time, and she was very shy and embarrassed because everybody else managed to finish up their drawings, and she can even barely came up with a decent drawing of her landmark. But I just encourage her to explain what she's trying to draw in the first place. So it was very hard to get her to boost her own confidence during that time, but she made it anyways with my help, and the other students were also supportive. One of her friend was encouraging her to speak, like helping her to construct her sentences throughout the whole session. And then, due to that, she was nervous all the time, and it's either she was tongue tied or she kept on looking down, and she just did not know what to say about her drawings. So that was kind of a few weak points to my teaching. So after identifying those weak spots in my teaching, I could understand that it was actually wrong of me because I did not give clear instructions for them to critically justify their products. Like I just simply said, you will tell the whole class why you chose this particular landmark to be adapted to your drawings. So I did not explain to them or give them an example of my critical justification on that particular landmark. So I realized that my instructions were vague and that I just gave them an example of the Statue of Liberty holding a bottle of fish sauce, which is a bottle of Budu. And then I did not give real explanations to why I choose to create such landmark, which is very contradicting because I asked them to do that, but I did not give a proper example to them. Other than that, I think maybe instead of drawing, I should provide them with materials instead so that they can proceed with project based learning. Like, for example, when I provide materials for them, such as plastic bottles or colored boxes or papers, they can use these materials to help them build their own landmark. So I think this way is better and much more interesting rather than simply handing out a piece of paper and ask them to draw their landmarks. Maybe I should have provided them with a prototype or a model that I had come out with on my own in order for them to get the idea of what they are supposed to do instead of just understanding my verbal explanation. They can see the example, the model in front of them. So this can help them to understand better, and it is more clear and easy for them to understand with physical examples rather than verbal explanations. So, what I learned from my teaching is that not all students can be artistic and have the confidence to show off their creation as they fear judgment and other people's criticism. So, while doing this activity, I think that it might have discouraged the students when they had no choice but to comply to the instructions for the activity. And this may give a negative impact on their self confidence whenever they want to speak or voice out their opinions. So, for instance, let's just take this situation that happened to Bushra. I can see that she was struggling to construct two figures of a Petronas twin tower, and she was depending heavily on her ruler and getting the right angle. So I can understand that maybe she is not good at drawing and she is shy and afraid of her classmates' criticism. When maybe she feared that what if Iqbal said that my Petronas Twin Tower is ugly or crooked and it's not as beautiful as Arman's drawing. It can be damaging for her to develop her own confidence. So yes, I think that is a very important thing to be considered when we are creating an activity for our students. So, to improve my teaching, I believe that I should have supported my instructions by using visuals or an examples of my very own landmark. So, I should also set an example on how to explain my landmark to them and give critical justifications on it so they will get the idea on how they should do it later on. So, by giving them physical examples like this, instead of verbally explaining to them what they are required to do, they will understand it better on what to do and the effectiveness of this activity, as well as the learning objectives will be achieved. Other than that, I think that providing ready made items for them to build their landmark instead of having them to draw it will save time and also help the students to will help the students who are less artistic and could not draw. Some were shy to show off their creation because they feel inferior towards other people's talents in drawing, and they feel like they just do not have that talent in drawing. So when the teacher provide them ready-made items, the items can actually be controlled by the teacher in terms of its sizes and colors. So this will actually give more room for students to construct their critical justifications of their design instead of giving them the opportunity to worry about how their design would look like, or how would people view my design if I draw it like this. It is also easier to assist them and give them ideas or guidance to help them build their very own landmarks when we provide them with ready-made items. Last but not least, I think that instead of having them to work individually, like in my teaching video, I can ask them to work in pairs or group so that they can discuss and share their opinions with one another. So this will encourage interactions among the students and help them feel less intimidated in finishing up their project. So by doing this, I'm actually encouraging two-way interactions between students and students, as well as students and teacher. This actually promotes cooperative learning in my teaching, because they are required to cooperate with one another and kind of like apply teamwork in order to get their landmark designs finished on time, as well as share ideas and opinions on how to critically justify their designs. So for my critical reflection, after analyzing my teaching video, I realized that the students have managed to raise a conflict in my belief system about self-actualization in my teaching. Due to my own experience as a language learner, I always find activities like this to be fun and engaging because it gives us the opportunity to explore our creativity when learning. I always believe that having the freedom to make choices will help me to develop my own learning while exploring my interests and hidden potentials. Therefore, I believe that the purpose of teaching is to bring out the unique qualities, potentials, and creativity in each student. I would value their choices and self-directed learning and are keen to provide for students unique and multiple needs, interests, and developmental tasks. However, I now realize that not all students are capable of making their own choices and exploring their creativity without proper guidance from the teacher. Some students can be overwhelmed by the freedom of making choices because they came from a background where decisions has already been made for them. This may affect their decision making skills as they do not know what is best for them and will always require guidance and opinions from others. I realized that I did not give them any form of support while doing the task and just gave them the full autonomy to do whatever they want. This had resulted to two students who were not able to finish their drawings on time as well as giving a fruitful presentation of their product. I realized that not all students are capable of self-directed learning and they might end up getting lost while performing such activity. Students who lack self-confidence will have a hard time completing this task as it gives them too much factors to worry about, hence discouraging the potential to boost their confidence. So, as a teacher, I must always remember that classroom activities should be made easy and slightly challenging for them in order to avoid them from getting too overwhelmed during the learning process. That's all from me. Thank you.